I'm gonna show how to do a circle skirt. And just because we're working on a tiny piece of paper here, I'm gonna do a little bit of origami so we can find the dead center of our paper. Oop. Okay. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna create a circle skirt, which is just as it sounds. So we're gonna do a little bit of math. So some things you need to know before creating a circle skirt is we want to know our waist measurement of the wearer. So say you measure your model. Let's say waist equals, I don't know, 28 inches. So we've got a 28-inch waist. Now the biggest thing to take into factor here is the width of our fabric, which is really going to help determine, are we going to have just 2 side seams, or are we going to have 2 side seams plus a center back, center front? Possibly, if it's a longer length, like, are we going to have to divide that circle in to quarters again? So we know our waist is 28, but the next thing we need to know is the number of seams we have. So let's go ahead and do 4. So for each seam, we know that our seam allowance is 1/2 inch. So we've got total 1 inch, 2, 3, and 4. So we've got 4 inches that we want to add to that waist measurement. So we've got 32. Anything that's cut on the circle, it like leaves this area on the bias, which allows for stretch. We want to reduce that stretch. So I'm going to take 1 inch, and that is standard from the measurement that we've gotten here. That includes the waist and seam allowance for the number of seams we're using. So I'm going to move forward with 31 inches. But now here's where the math comes in. So we want to figure out the radius for the waist circumference here. So we've got 31 inches. We're going to divide this by pi. So your 3.14. So now I know my diameter, which is the total length, like one point of the circle to the other, is 9.8. We're going to divide that by 2 to find our radius. So we've got 4.93. So we're just going to round up to, and do 5. And that tells us what we're going to extend out from this very center point. And again, this is like full scale. So I'm going to work off 1 inch here. I have no qualms putting a push pin directly through a soft tape measure. So I'm going to work, just so I can avoid this metal piece, right from the 1 inch mark, knowing that I need to go 1 inch. So put that dead center. And you can use another pin here, kind of like an awl, or maybe the lead of the pencil can squeeze through that new hole. So I use this as my compass. You can totally use an actual compass, but when you're working with a full scale pattern, good luck with that. So just go with the soft tape measure and just kind of spin that around. Cool, so there's our waist. We're gonna leave that as is, but now we need to consider our length from waist down to the floor. So what do we want our length of the garment to be? So I'm going to, based off of the paper, I'm gonna give us a 3-inch skirt. And you can just leave this pivot point the same. Thankfully, I'm at just 1 inch circumference here, so it's easy for me to know how to map that out. The other way to do that is, again, finding that pi diameter. Go ahead and just poke a little hole in this portion of the tape measure. Draw that right around. So the cool thing about going ahead and adding that seam allowance into this circumference is that your circle is always going to be round. And like I said, we're doing a 4-panel skirt. I'll use the highlighter just so it's easy to see. My 1/2 inch seam allowance. Just go ahead and push that in here now so it's all clear. And kind of like, that's messy, ignore that, but kind of like the fullness skirts, anytime I have a round circle, the bigger the hem, the harder it is to get that to suck up underneath. Not saying that it cannot be done. A lot of the time with circle skirts, I like to use like a horsehair in the hem, so that allows for maybe a 1/8 inch extension from what you wanted your hem, or sorry, the skirt length to measure. So just when you're making this mark, I really just stunted myself at that 3-inch round just because of paper. But be sure to incorporate your hem always into your actual length of the garment. And for that, just so that we remember, I'm going to notch 1/8 of an inch hem allowance and make a note, 1/8 inch hem allowance here. And the other thing we want to do, so you can see this is already taking shape, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are almost identical, but it's just helpful to draw the full circle when drafting this. But the only other thing we want to do is we want to shift this because our waists are just, they are not perfectly round. So we want to shift this to the back. It's like front and back here, and then just reshape this to these side points here. I might have gone extreme, so 1/4 inch on a real sized body. So reshape and reshape, round that back out, make sure you're square front to back. And then, like I said, you can totally discard this if that makes it any easier for you. But we've got our front circle skirt, and we're gonna do cut 2. So we're just gonna say bye to that. Circle skirt, back, cut 2. And then you can label this the rest of the way, but let's say that should clear this up. So anyway, this is how to use a circle skirt. And you can always do, this is a full circle as you can see, but you can always do a 1/2 or even a 1/4, and then just, again, you have to adjust your, the amount given within. So your waist measurement is always going to fit within whatever true scale of a circle you want to work with.